It's the Bible Hour, ladies and gentlemen, to send off this Lord's Day in Bible style. What a way to end the Day of the Lord. Not the Day of the Lord in the sense of the second coming Day of the Lord, unless indeed it is. I mean, there's still, 4 hours left where that could be the case, but I mean it in the sense of the Lord's Day, Day of the Lord. That's my phone making a noise, because I forgot to turn it off. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on in to the Park End live stream from Park End Studios, the Bible Hour, day 106 of 60. We are well on course, well within budget. Welcome on in. It is Sunday, the something of something, the year is something. No one's quite sure anymore. So we need the Bible open. Like that. We need to put that there. We need to put that there. Like that. And I need to put the screen on the other side. There. Oh, yeah. And we put that there like that. Okay, well, I'm good to go. You all good to go? Let's just go. I'll bring the mic a bit closer. How about that? Bring that closer as well. I can't find tonight's Bible Hour. Oh. Have I posted this? Should be there. Someone's saying the link isn't up for tonight's Bible Hour. Oh. I think I put it on invisible. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, I'm live, but it's unlisted. Can someone log in and... Oh, hold on a minute now, let's think about this. How's this going to work? How do I list this instead of unlisted? Ladies and gentlemen. Oh, Neil's done it. Neil, I'm not sure if there's anything Neil cannot do. Yeah, alright, okay. We need to make that public. Neil's fixed it. Look at that. Neil. Arguably the most capable human on planet Earth. Welcome on into the now visible stream from the Park End Studios. Welcome on in, Chris Henry. You're early. You're early. Welcome on in, Sam Whittington. I got a few things to say about tonight's service, of which you were a part, Sam Whittington, but I'm going to wait until about 9 o'clock to do that. Have we got an admin tonight? Yeesh, the doorbell just rang. The doorbell actually rang and my kids are in bed and Rita's in the garden. Ladies and gentlemen, incredible scenes in the Park End studios. The dog is barking. The door is belling. The children are calling over the monitors. It is pure chaos on this day. But we're here, and we're back. The drama has been averted. Welcome on in, Park End Church admin. Yes, space hyphen space. That's Ricky B. Good use of capital letters and exclamation marks. Take 106 seconds to answer the door, says Sam. Ben Ricketts. Alright, what a lovely day it's been in many ways. In many ways. Ezekiel 20:21. Nice one, that helps me. Oh yeah, and we were doing like the Sabbath stuff. Admin is Nick. Well, welcome on in, Nick. Beautiful use of exclamation marks, capital letters and spaces. That's Ricky B level grammar. Good evening, Sue Hawkins in the house. Hey, Sue Roberts, happy Sunday. Feels so much happier after communion yesterday. Glory. I made a little video, a 1-minute video on fast speed of, I thought it was Ricky B, I thought it was. I thought so. I made a little video of the communion. It's 1 minute long, everything's sped up, but it's great. Sam Winterton, I've had a lovely email chat with Julie Emlyn Jones tonight. Shout out to Julie Emlyn Jones. Julie Emlyn Jones got a very, very good, what should we call it? Ministry, character trait, discipline, whereby she keeps in touch with people regularly, a lot of people regularly, and that is a gift. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Sunday, and what a day it's been. I'll tell you what I liked about the service. I like the effort that the media team has put in. That's no small thing, the editing. I really liked Sue Williams's rendition with a very good musical arrangement of Yet Not I. Hopefully be uploading that as an independent video for churches to sing along to. I like Andy listed all the things that are on at the moment in the life of the church, and when you stop and think about all the different wings of ministry in Park End Church and the different skills and character sets and tailor-made things that people are doing, it's a really fruitful church, Park End. And I really liked the Safe Families, and I was wondering if they've changed their names, because they didn't say Safe Families for Children. Is that a name change? But I found the video quite moving, and I tell you what, that video, the way it was done, my children who are 3 and 6 could not help but be glued to the screen and hung on every word. It's just something about the way it was done. They followed every bit of that boy's story. Worth watching. And I like Marcus Nelson's preaching. He says things in ways which are interesting, like they're fresh, and they bring truths I've heard probably a million times in a fresh way and hook me and get me fired up a bit. He's good at that, Marcus. Like just little things like Jesus wrote the authorized biography of the devil. It puts a whole different world on it, and I'll think about the power of Jesus now this week because of it. I'll be honest, most preaching bores me to tears. It's just things we've all heard a million times in a dull way, which does nothing to change our lives. But Marcus, yeah, he's good. He's good. Yeah, so in Safe Families from Deck. I wouldn't be surprised if Jensen and Levi start signing up to your stuff. Kath Davis in the house. Well, what's really in the freak accident of the karma of nature, in the random dice events thrown by Mother Nature, I too am going to be speaking tonight on Ezekiel 28 and Isaiah 14, which Mark has mentioned in his sermon tonight on the devil. Would you believe it, when Mother Nature throws her random dice, the lots just randomly fall, and occasionally it looks like there is a greater hand behind all of these coincidences. And we are going to get to the passage on the devil, and I've got a bit to say about that. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, we are in Ezekiel 20:21, where the church have been Sabbath breaking, which is a massive no-no on many levels. So this is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Grab a chair, welcome on in, finish your Sunday off with us as we hit Ezekiel 20:21, not Isaiah. But their children too rebelled against me. They refused to keep my decrees and follow my regulations, even though obedience would have given them life. And they also violated my Sabbath day, so I again threatened to pour out my fury on them in the wilderness. Nevertheless, I withdrew my judgment against them to protect the honor of my name before the nations that had seen my power in bringing them out of Egypt. But I took a solemn oath against them in the wilderness. I swore I would scatter them among all the nations, because they did not obey my regulations. They scorned my decrees by violating my Sabbath days and longing for the idols of their ancestors. I gave them over to worthless decrees and regulations that would not lead to life. I let them pollute themselves with the very gifts I had given them, and I allowed them to give their firstborn children as offerings to their gods, so I might devastate them and remind them that I alone am the Lord. Therefore, Son of Man, give the people of Israel this message from the sovereign Lord. Your ancestors continued to blaspheme and betray me. For when I brought them into the land I had promised them, they offered sacrifices on every high hill and under every green tree they saw. They roused my fury as they offered up sacrifices to their gods. They brought their perfumes and incense and poured out their liquid offerings to them. I said to them, "What is this high place where you are going?" This kind of pagan shrine has been called Bama, high place, ever since. Therefore, give the people of Israel this message from the sovereign Lord. Do you plan to pollute yourselves just as your ancestors did? Do you intend to keep prostituting yourselves by worshipping vile images? For when you offer gifts to them and give your little children to be burned as sacrifices, you continue to pollute yourselves with idols to this day. Should I allow you to ask for a message from me, O people of Israel? As surely as I live, says the sovereign Lord, I will tell you nothing. You say, we want to be like the nations around us, who serve idols of wood and stone. But what you have in mind will never happen. As surely as I live, says the sovereign Lord, I will rule over you with an iron fist, in great anger and with awesome power. And in anger I will reach out my strong hand and powerful arm, and I will bring you back from the lands where you are scattered. I will bring you into the wilderness of the nations, and there I will judge you face to face. I will judge you there just as I did your ancestors in the wilderness after bringing them out of Egypt, says the sovereign Lord. I will examine you carefully and hold you to the terms of the covenant. I will purge you of all those who rebel and revolt against me. I will bring them out of the countries where they are in exile, but they will never enter the land of Israel. Then you will know that I am the Lord. As for you, O people of Israel, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Go right ahead and worship your idols. But sooner or later you will obey me and stop bringing shame on my holy name by worshipping idols. For on my holy mountain, the great mountain of Israel, says the sovereign Lord, the people of Israel will someday worship me, and I will accept them. There I will require that you bring me all your offerings and choice gifts and sacrifices. When I bring you home from exile, you will be like a pleasing sacrifice to me, and I will display my holiness through you as all the nations watch. Then when I have brought you home to the land I promised with a solemn oath to give to your ancestors, you will know that I am the Lord. You will look back on all the ways you defiled yourselves and will hate yourselves because of the evil you have done. You will know that I am the Lord, O people of Israel, when I have honored my name by treating you mercifully in spite of your wickedness. I, the sovereign Lord, have spoken. Then this message came to me from the Lord. Son of man, turn and face the south and speak out against it. Prophesy against the bushlands of the Negev. Tell the southern wilderness, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Hear the word of the Lord. I will set you on fire, and every tree, both green and dry, will be burned. The terrible flames will not be quenched and will scorch everything from south to north. And everyone in the world will see that I, the Lord, have set this fire. It will not be put out. Then I said, O sovereign Lord, they are saying of me, he only talks in riddles. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome unto the Bible Hour. If you are just joining us now, we are on day 106 and we are learning about the Lord and his ancient church, of which we have been grafted in. So there's so much here for us. I'm pretty sure there's much dispute over 21, but I'll get into why now. Ezekiel chapter 21. The Lord's sword of judgment. Then this message came to me from the Lord. Son of man, turn and face Jerusalem and prophesy against Israel and her sanctuaries. Tell her, this is what the Lord says. I am your enemy, O Israel, and I am about to unsheathe my sword to destroy your people, the righteous and the wicked alike. Yes, I will cut off both the righteous and the wicked. I will draw my sword against everyone in the land from south to north. Everyone in the world will know that I am the Lord. My sword is in my hand, and it will not return to its sheath until its works is finished. So sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, people come to know who the Lord is through his acts of judgment. Then and now. Son of man, groan before the people, groan before them with bitter anguish and a broken heart. When they ask you, why are you groaning? Tell them, I groan because of the terrifying news I have heard. When it comes true, the boldest heart will melt with fear. All strength will disappear. Every spirit will faint. Strong knees will become as weak as water. And the sovereign Lord says, it is coming. It's on its way. Then the Lord said to me, Son of man, give the people this message from the Lord. A sword is being sharpened and polished. It is sharpened for terrible slaughter and polished to flash like lightning. Now, will you laugh? Those far stronger than you have fallen beneath its power. Yes, the sword is now being sharpened and polished, and is being prepared for the executioner. Son of man, cry out and wail. Pound your thighs in anguish, for the sword will slaughter my people and their leaders. Everyone will die. It will put them all to the test. What chance do they have? Says the sovereign Lord. Son of man, prophesy to them and clap your hands. Then take the sword and brandish it twice, even 3 times, to symbolize the great massacre. The great massacre facing them on every side. Let their hearts melt with terror, for the sword glitters at every gate. It flashes like lightning and is polished for slaughter. O sword, slash to the right, then slash to the left, wherever you will, wherever you want. I too will clap my hands, and I will satisfy my fury. I, the Lord, have spoken. Bible Hour, when we say we know God, is it this God that we know? Or are we afraid of certain aspects of his character? Or even ashamed? Then this message came to me from the Lord. Son of man, make a map and trace 2 routes on it for the sword of Babylon's king to follow. Put a signpost on the road that comes out of Babylon where the road forks in 2. One road going to Ammon and its capital, Rabbah, and the other to Judah and fortified Jerusalem. The king of Babylon now stands at the fork, uncertain whether to attack Jerusalem or Rabbah. He calls his magicians to look for omens. They cast lots by shaking arrows from the quiver. They inspect the livers of animal sacrifices. The omen in his right hand says, Jerusalem. With battering rams, his soldiers will go against the gates, shouting for the kill. They will put up siege towers and build ramps against the walls. The people of Jerusalem will think it's a false omen because of their treaty with the Babylonians. But the king of Babylon will remind the people of their rebellion. Then he will attack and capture them. Therefore, this is what the Sovereign Lord says. Again and again you remind me of your sin and your guilt. You don't even try to hide it. In everything you do, your sins are obvious for all to see. So now, this time of your punishment has come. O you corrupt and wicked Prince of Israel, your final day of reckoning is here. This is what the Sovereign Lord says. Take off your jewel crown, for the old order changes. Now the lowly will be exalted, and the mighty will be brought down. Destruction, destruction. I will surely destroy the kingdom, and it will not be restored until one appears who has the right to judge it. Then I will hand it over to him. A message for the Ammonites. And now, son of man, prophesy concerning the Ammonites and their mockery. Hold on, itchy nose. I think there's a dog hair that's gone up there or something. One of Evie's. She's shedding a lot at the moment. Give them this message from the Sovereign Lord. A sword is drawn for your slaughter. It is polished to destroy, flashing like lightning. Your prophets have given false visions, and your fortune tellers have told lies. The sword will fall on the necks of all the wicked, for whom the final day of reckoning has come. Now return the sword to its sheath, for in your own country, the land of your birth, I will pass judgment upon you. I will pour out my fury on you and blow on you the fire of my anger. I will hand you over to cruel men who are skilled in destruction. You will be fuel for the fire, and your blood will be spilled in your own land. You will be utterly wiped out, your memory lost to history. For I, the Lord, have spoken. Well, to properly understand Ezekiel chapter 22, we have to have in our minds the chapters Leviticus 19 to 25, where the Lord and Moses told the ancient church what true life is. True life on earth looks like. And they'll be blessed if they follow it. And then he lists what happens like if they don't follow it. And then they didn't follow it. And now Ezekiel relists what's going to happen. The sins of Jerusalem. Now this message came to me from the Lord. Son of man, are you ready to judge Jerusalem? Are you ready to judge this city of murderers? Publicly denounce her detestable sins and give her this message from the Sovereign Lord. O city of murderers, doomed and damned, city of idols, filthy and foul, you are guilty because of the blood you have shed. You are defiled because of the idols you have made. Your day of destruction has come. You have reached the end of your years. I will make you an object of mockery throughout the world. O infamous city, filled with confusion, you will be mocked by people far and near. Every leader in Israel who lives within your walls is bent on murder. Fathers and mothers are treated with contempt. Foreigners are forced to pay for protection. Orphans and widows are wronged and oppressed among you. Sam Whittington touched on this a bit tonight with quoting the Hebrews and doing good works and stuff. Church can preach the gospel until the cows come home, but if church are oppressing people, cutting corners, not looking after orphans and widows, not reaching out like in a physical way to help people, there's just no power there. Look at what church life is here. It's not like the gospel message there and then good works and lifestyle over here, and we'll do this bit mainly and then a bit of that once a month or something. It's like, no, that is that. There's no separation. It's life in Jesus. It's church. We are saved into church life. You despise my holy things and violate my Sabbath days of rest. Practice what you preach, says Parker. And there you go. That is a shorter way of saying what I said. People accuse others falsely and send them to their death. You are filled with idol worshippers and people who do obscene things. Men sleep with their fathers' wives and force themselves on women who are menstruating. Within your walls, and remember the menstruating thing. Go back to the Leviticus days of why leaky, decaying bodies and things are, signs of leaking, decaying bodies. Within your walls live men who commit adultery with their neighbours' wives, who defile their daughters-in-law, and who rape their own sisters. There are hired murderers, loan racketeers, and extortioners everywhere. They never even think of me and my commands, says the sovereign Lord. But now I clap my hands in indignation over your dishonest gain and bloodshed. How strong and courageous will you be in my day of reckoning? I, the Lord, have spoken, and I will do what I said. I will scatter you among the nations and purge you of your wickedness. And when I have been dishonored among the nations because of you, you will know that I am the Lord. Then this message came to me from the Lord, Son of man, the people of Israel are the worthless slag that remains after silver is smelted. They are the dross that is left over, a useless mixture of copper, tin, iron, and lead. So tell them, this is what the sovereign Lord says, because you are all worthless slag, I will bring you to my crucible in Jerusalem. We remember previously from Owen's commentary that he had the wrong slag not too long ago. I will bring you to my crucible in Jerusalem, just as silver, copper, iron, lead, and tin are melted down in a furnace. I will melt you down in the heat of my fury. I will gather you together and blow the fire of my anger upon you, and you will melt like silver in fierce heat. Then you will know that I, the Lord, have poured out my fury on you. Yeah, the Lord doesn't want sleeping with sisters and fathers' wives in the life of the church and racketeering and extorting people. Who'd have thought? Again, a message came to me from the Lord, Son of man, give the people of Israel this message. In the day of my indignation, you will be like a polluted land, a land without rain. Your princes plot conspiracies just as lions stalk their prey. They devour innocent people, seizing treasures and extorting wealth. They make many widows in the land. And we all felt sorry for Rita, says Sue wrote. Your priests have violated my instructions and defiled my holy things. They make no distinction between what is holy and what is not. They do not teach my people the difference between what is ceremonially clean and unclean. They disregard my Sabbath days so that I am dishonored among them. Your leaders are like wolves who tear apart their victims. They actually destroy people's lives for money. And your prophets cover up for them by announcing false visions and making lying predictions. They say, my message is from the sovereign Lord, when the Lord hasn't spoken a single word to them. Even common people oppress the poor, rob the needy, and deprive foreigners of justice. Don't deprive foreigners of justice. But again, we always feel sorry for Rita. I looked for someone who might rebuild the wall of righteousness that guards the land. I searched for someone to stand in the gap in the wall so I wouldn't have to destroy the land, but I found no one. So now I will pour out my fury on them, consuming them with the fire of my anger. I will heap on their heads the full penalty for all their sins. I, the sovereign Lord, have spoken. Ladies and gentlemen, we have made it to Ezekiel 23, but before that, it is the halfway mark. So take 601 seconds, then take off 600 of them, and with the remaining time, go and grab a biscuit, gluten-free, and bring it back. And then we will carry on after this short break. I also liked Andy Webb's presentation tonight. Cool and calm, respectful, dignified, and even arranged for me to do a fire display for someone. So that was good. Of course, Rita has now barred me from doing any fireworks. She thought she was losing her husband to Bible Hour for 60 days, and look what happened. We actually saw Glynis Webb today, who was commending Rita for her patience, but actually found out it works the other way, and she quite enjoys the 60 hours without me, and which has turned to 106, because don't forget, we're like around each other in the day at the moment. So for those trickling on back in for Ezekiel 23, maybe he forgot the 0 and it was 600. Hey, Bible Hour. We're going to be done easily in 120 days. 120 days. We're still way ahead of the Bible in a year, people, and the Robert Murray McShane Bible setup with an Old Testament chapter, a Psalm, and a New Testament chapter, whatever it is. Anyway, now, Ezekiel 23 is interesting, right, because it's quite pictorial, which would have invoked felt participation when you sort of have illustrative sermons and brings you in a bit. So just remember the background now. From 841 to 840 BC, Israel was involved in an alliance with Assyria when Shalmaneser III received tribute from Jehu. That's Israel. That was what the top half are up to. The bottom half in Judah, in 714 BC, Hezekiah, remember, entertained the ambassadors from Babylon, ruler Merodach Baladan, and who was looking to get support to fight the Assyrians in 2 Kings 20. But then when that Babylonian-led resistance crumbled, Hezekiah then went back giving tribute to the Assyrians. But by 605 BC, Babylon had established itself as the dominant power in the region, and Judah then was in a vassal relationship toward them. So don't forget that 200-year block. As we jump into Ezekiel 23, here we go. This message came to me from the Lord. Son of man, once there were 2 sisters who were daughters of the same mother. They became prostitutes in Egypt. Even as young girls, they allowed men to fondle their breasts. The older girl was named Aholah, and her sister was Oholibah. I married them, and they bore me sons and daughters. I am speaking of Samaria and Jerusalem. For Aholah is Samaria, and Oholibah is Jerusalem. So that's the capital of the north, capital of the south, which are divided. Then Aholah lusted after other lovers instead of me, and she gave her love to the Assyrian officers. They were all attractive young men, captains and commanders dressed in handsome blue, charioteers driving their horses, and so she prostituted herself with the most desirable men of Assyria, worshipping their idols and defiling herself. For when she left Egypt, she did not leave her spirit of prostitution behind. She was still as lewd as in her youth, when the Egyptians slept with her, fondled her breast, and used her as a prostitute. And so I handed over to her Assyrian lovers, whom she desired so much. They stripped her, took away her children as their slaves, and then killed her. After she received her punishment, her reputation was known to every woman in the land. Yet even though Oholibah saw what had happened to Aholah, her sister, She followed in her footsteps. And she was even more depraved. Abandoning herself to her lust and prostitution, she fawned over all the Assyrian officers, those captains and commanders in handsome uniforms, those charioteers driving their horses, all of them attractive young men. I saw the way she was going, defiling herself just like her older sister. Then she carried her prostitution even further. She fell in love with pictures that were painted on the wall, pictures of Babylonian military officers, outfitted in striking red uniforms. Handsome belts encircled their waists and flowing turbans crowned their heads. They were dressed like chariot officers from the land of Babylonia. When she saw these paintings, she longed to give herself to them. So she sent messengers to Babylonia to invite them to come to her. So they came and committed adultery with her, defiling her in the bed of love. After being defiled, however, she rejected them in disgust. In the same way, I became disgusted with Oholibah and rejected her, just as I had rejected her sister, because she flaunted herself before them and gave herself to satisfy their lusts. Yet she turned to even greater prostitution, remembering her youth when she was a prostitute in Egypt. She lusted after lovers with genitals as large as donkeys and emissions like those of a horse. So Old Testament prophets can get pretty graphic when describing the sins of the ancient church. It's a little bit different to our evening service tonight. And so, Oholibah, you relived your former days as a young girl in Egypt when you first allowed your breasts to be fondled. Therefore, Oholibah, this is what the Sovereign Lord says: I will send your lovers against you from every direction, those very nations from which you turned away in disgust. For the Babylonians will come with all the Chaldeans from Pekod and Shoa and Koa, and all the Assyrians will come with them, handsome young captains, commanders, chariot officers, and other high-ranking officers, all riding their horses. They will all come against you from the north with chariots, wagons, and a great army prepared for attack. They will take up positions on every side, surrounding you with men armed with shields and helmets, and I will hand you over to them for punishment, so they can do with you as they please. I will turn my jealous anger against you, and I will deal harshly with you. They will cut off your nose and ears, and any survivors will then be slaughtered by the sword. Your children will be taken away as captives, and everything that is left will be burned. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are married tonight in the Bible Hour, you now know why. The earthly marriage is all Jesus and church. Why be loyal to each other? Well, for many reasons, but one is disloyalty in marriage shows the world that marriage isn't all it cracked up to be. But the thing is, marriage is all it cracks up to be because it is a picture of Jesus and church. So why should a husband and wife particularly love each other, protect each other, honour each other? Because it's Jesus and the church, and that gospel image is at stake. Why, is prostitution wrong? Well, it's not inherently wrong just for the sake of being wrong. It's wrong because that is not what bodies in that way are to be doing. Bodies doing things in that way are to be showing Jesus and the church. So the crime of it is, it's all over the place and a whack job inversion of the beauty of all that stuff. Why are single celibate people better off remaining single and celibate like Jesus? How is it that they can have maximum life, full life, even more than married couples often in the Bible? Nearly always, actually. Why? Because they're married to Jesus, because they're part of the church, and in that is life. So the answer to single, celibate, like unhappy people isn't, oh, I'll just go sleep around with everyone because true happiness lies there. It's like, nah, because sleeping around isn't part of Jesus' idea of what life is. The answer is, get into church life more and more and more. Serve, enjoy. Get busy in gospel work. Get to know Jesus. Our Maker is our husband. There are no laws of God just for the sake of it. Hey, why doesn't God approve of this? He's just like a killjoy. No, it's because he wants us to have max joy, and he knows how that's attained. They will strip you of your beautiful clothes and jewels. In this way, I will put a stop to the lewdness and prostitution you brought from Egypt. You will never again cast longing eyes on those things or fondly remember your time in Egypt. For this is what the Sovereign Lord says: I will surely hand you over to your enemies, to those you loathe, those you rejected. They will treat you with hatred and rob you of all you own, leaving you stark naked. The shame of your prostitution will be exposed to all the world. You brought all this on yourself by prostituting yourself to other nations, defiling yourself with all their idols. Because you have followed in your sister's footsteps, I will force you to drink the same cup of terror she drank. Yes, this is what the Sovereign Lord says. You will drink from your sister's cup of terror, a cup that is large and deep. It is filled to the brim with scorn and derision. Drunkenness and anguish will fill you, for your cup is filled to the brim with distress and desolation, the same cup your sister Samaria drank. You will drain that cup of terror to the very bottom. Then you will smash it to pieces and beat your breasts in anguish. I, the Sovereign Lord, have spoken. And because you have forgotten me and turned your back on me, this is what the Sovereign Lord says: you must bear the consequences of all your lewdness and prostitution. North Star, lots of modern churches don't really have space for singles. Very family and couple orientated, especially fellowship groups. Dude, that's because modern church has gone up the Swanee. The single celibate life, according to the Bible, is the ideal life. And for us losers that can't cope with it, it's like, all right, get married then. Go on if you have to. But the time and things you can give to real worthy causes is particularly available for single celibate people. The world needs more Jesus church, yeah. And it's really interesting, like, oh no, I can't be bothered. I've said enough North Star. I could go on that for days. But, one thing. The culture of the world, which is saying at the moment, our sexual identity and practices define us. We have to define ourselves and put it out there and act and engage according to our sexual orientation. Otherwise, we have no life. That lie, like there's nothing more to us than sexual orientation, has crept into the church. And there is an inordinate amount of false whatever North Star said. There's an awful amount of geared towards the goal of everything. The eschatological goal of human existence in the world is to get married and have kids. It's like, dude, you haven't read your Bible. It's to be married to Jesus. The man filled with life who was single and celibate. The Lord said to me, Son of man, you must accuse Aholah and Oholibah of their detestable sins. They have committed both adultery and murder, adultery by worshipping idols and murder by burning as sacrifices the children they bore to me. Further, they have defiled my temple and violated my Sabbath day. On the very day that they sacrificed their children to idols, they boldly came into my temple worship. They came in and defiled my house. And don't forget, when we were in Genesis and we twinned it with Paul's take on what Adam and Eve's marriage was, it was all about church. Not like their wedding ceremony. It's not good for people to be alone. Obviously, church, society and life. That's what the Apostle Paul says. That whole thing is about Jesus and church and being church members in fellowship with Jesus. It's not good to be alone outside of Jesus and church. Ben Ricketts, and if you are single, there must be something wrong with you. Yeah, that has crept into the church, and that's why the church is so utterly powerless, because people do not believe that being married to Jesus is enough. People don't believe that. Elders don't believe that. Church ministers don't believe that at the moment. And look at us. No wonder there's like a higher divorce rate in churches now than ever before, because we're all sold a lie. The whole perspective's gone. Diane, our church needs good preaching to make that happen. Church needs a recalibration. Yeah. Yep. Nikki B, people need to listen too. Yep. I would call that a slight tangent, and I wonder where we could get a decent preacher. Ben Ricketts wants to know where he can get a preacher that doesn't make him carry a log from Reader Penai, whatever it's called, to the manse, or at least the manse car, and then to the manse. Sorry about that, Ben Ricketts. Ladies and gentlemen, we've lost track. I've no idea where I am, so take 30 seconds and we will come back for the last 15 minutes in this session, which is turned into marriage counselling. If admin has any idea where I am, that would be a help if you could tell me what verse I got to. We're not going to get to chapter 20. Plus, in the newsletter this week, I said we were going to get to Daniel. Pressure's on. $23.40. That's why you're the best park end admin. That's why. Right there. The use of the colon, the accuracy in the verse. Right, let's just make a note here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, verse 40. You sisters sent messages to distant lands to get men. Then when they arrived, you bathed yourselves, painted your eyelids, and put on your finest jewels for them. You sat with them on a beautifully embroidered couch, and put my incense on my special oil on a table that was spread before you. From your room... Do you have OCD, Ricky B? That's interesting. From the room came the sound of many men carousing. They were lustful men and drunkards from the wilderness, who put bracelets on your wrists and beautiful crowns on your heads. Then I said, if they really want to have sex with old worn-out prostitutes like these, let them. And that is what they did. They had sex with Ahola and Oholiba, these shameless prostitutes. But righteous people will judge these sisters' cities for what they really are, adulterers and murderers. Now this is what the Sovereign Lord says, bring an army against them and hand them over to be terrorized and plundered. For their enemies will stone them and kill them with swords. They will butcher their sons and daughters and burn their homes. In this way I will put an end to lewdness and idolatry in the land, and my judgment will be a warning to all women not to follow your wicked example. You will be fully repaid for all your prostitution, your worship of idols. Yes, you will suffer the full penalty. Then you will know that I am the Sovereign Lord. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it is Ezekiel chapter 24. This, the first 14 verses, is the day. 587 BC, a date some of the Park End members remember in person. Nebuchadnezzar arrived at Jerusalem. Jonathan Ganesh, yuck, prostitutes is bad for health. Yeah, I think you're probably right there, Jonathan. Welcome on into the Bible Hour. We are about to read when King Nebuchadnezzar attacked the ancient church headquarters, Jerusalem. On January 15th, during the 9th year of King Jehoiachin's captivity, this message came to me from the Lord. Son of man, write down today's date, because on this very day, the king of Babylon is beginning his attack against Jerusalem. Then give these rebels an illustration with this message from the Sovereign Lord. Put a pot on the fire and pour out some water. Fill it with choice pieces of meat, the rump and the shoulder, and all the most tender cuts. Only use the best sheep from the flock, and heap fuel on the fire beneath the pot. Bring the pot to a boil and cook the bones along with the meat. Andy Christophides in the house, still going? Yeah, man. They keep making me do side rants about marriage and celibacy and prostitution and things like that. I'd have finished on day 60, Andy. Now this is what the Sovereign Lord says. What sorrow awaits Jerusalem, the city of murderers. She is a cooking pot whose corruption can't be cleaned out. Take the meat out in random order, for no piece is better than the other. For the blood of her murderers is splashed on the rocks. It isn't even spilled on the ground where the dust could cover it. Remember that in the mosaic, the meat that you were going to eat, the blood had to be covered, otherwise it was an effect. The blood on the floor was covered. This one isn't. So I will splash her blood on a rock for all to see as an expression of my anger and vengeance against her. This is what the Sovereign Lord says. What sorrow awaits Jerusalem, the city of murderers. I myself will pile up the fuel beneath her. Yes, heap on the wood. Let the fire roar to make the pot boil. Cook the meat with many spices, and afterward burn the bones. Now set the empty pot on the coals, heated red hot. Burn away the filth and corruption. But it's hopeless. The corruption cannot be cleaned out. So throw it into the fire. Your impurity is your lewdness and the corruption of your idolatry. I tried to cleanse you, but you refused. Jesus said that again when looking over Jerusalem. So now you will remain in your filth until my fury against you has been satisfied. I, the Lord, have spoken. The time has come, and I won't hold back. I will not change my mind, and I will have no pity on you. You will be judged on the basis of all your wicked actions, says the sovereign Lord. Now, verse 15 onwards is quite a moving account, actually. The death of Ezekiel's wife. Sue Roberts, we're in here, false pretenses. Yeah, I may have told a fib to Andy Christofides. Then this message came to me from the Lord. Son of man, with one blow I will take away your dearest treasure. Do not weep. Let there be no tears. Groan silently, but let there be no wailing at her grave. Do not uncover your head or take off your sandals. Do not perform the usual rituals of mourning or accept any food brought to you by consoling friends. So I proclaimed this to the people the next morning, and in the evening my wife died. The next morning I did everything I had been told to do. Then the people asked, "What does all this mean? What are you trying to tell us?" So I said to them, "A message came to me from the Lord, and I was told to give this message to the people of Israel. This is what the sovereign Lord says. I will defile my temple, the source of your security and pride, the place your heart delights in." So Ezekiel's wife, so precious, the temple, so precious to that ancient church, but they fluffed it by worshipping demonic gods in there. That'll do it. Your sons and daughters whom you left behind in Judah will be slaughtered by the sword. Then you will do as Ezekiel has done. You will not mourn in public or console yourselves by eating the food brought by friends. Your heads will remain covered, and your sandals will not be taken off. You will not mourn or weep, but you will waste away because of your sins. You will groan among yourselves for all the evil you have done. Ezekiel is an example for you. You will do just as he has done. And when that time comes, you will know that I am the sovereign Lord. Then the Lord said to me, "Son of man, on the day I take away their stronghold, their joy and their glory, their heart's desire, their dearest treasure, I will also take away their sons and daughters. And on that day, a survivor from Jerusalem will come to you in Babylon and tell you what has happened. And when he arrives, your voice will suddenly return, so you can talk to him, and you will be a symbol for these people. Then they will know that I am the Lord." Beza 03. Would God rather them be straight yet depressed and miserable, or would he rather let them be happy with their partner of choice? I think he would rather them be happy. Beza, what an excellent, excellent question. And such an important one in this day and age. I think here are some thoughts around that. I sort of agree with you and I sort of don't. So the part I agree with, that the living God wants every human to know him and connect with him and share in his life, which brings a blessed life. The best life. The optimal life a human can have because we're made in his image. Note that I didn't use the word happy, because happiness and that emotion can come and go, but I've known Christians be blessed even the days their wives have died and they're weeping and wailing because they're so sad. But they're held tight and they're claiming to rock solid truths given to them by God that they will see their Christian loved one again. There's a blessedness that the Lord God wants us all to have in sharing his life as we look forward to his world to come, where then the emotion of happiness is everlasting and uninterrupted and eternal. Along that way, he's going to let us have rough times, sad days as well. So the living God wants us to be blessed in Jesus, which is what we're made for. And therefore, he knows the best way for that to happen. And he knows if we don't align our private lives, who we date, what we eat, what we watch, who we socialize with, how we treat others, what we do with our money, what we do with our spare time, if we don't engage with him on those things, because he knows what's best for us, it's always going to go downhill. So I believe Jesus, when he says there are some partners we shouldn't have, and it's going to be tough, and it's going to war against what we think is wise, but I believe him when he says you won't be as blessed or happy in the long run if you go down that route than if you choose my way and my life. And that, Beza 03, is what I came to see when I was about 20 years old. So now, 15 years ago? And all I can say is that Jesus is more trustworthy than any other person on planet Earth. So to choose him over relationships with other humans is hard sometimes, but always the right thing to do. Listen, Beza, that is an awesome question, and if you want to engage more on that sort of stuff, then the Park End admin has just put a link to today's whatever this is called, live stream, and there's a chat thing underneath there, so just pop anything else you've got for us in there. But that's what we're all about here, engaging with real questions. Well articulated question, very polite and well thought through, Beza. Difficult subject, that one. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have sadly come to the end of the Bible hour for the day. So, arrivederci. Check out our evening service from tonight. That's on YouTube, and we will be back here every day. So we'll be back here at 9 p.m. tomorrow. Cheerio for now.